July 10, 2025. In the heart of the Darien Gap, more than 2,000 U.S. Special Forces surged forward, their assault sharpened by stealth drones ghosting overhead and armored tanks grinding through the mud. Their target, an empire of blood and profit built by two American-born brothers, Lucas and Jared Stone. Warlords cloaked as traffickers, rulers of a kingdom stitched from fear. Within hours, over 3,000 cartel fighters lay dead or in chains, while more than 2,000 civilians staggered out of underground prisons. Some had been tagged for organ harvesting, others marked for transport into the darkest corners of global sex markets. But how could America strike so cleanly without losing a single soldier or hostage? What secrets slept in this jungle fortress? And why had the Pentagon unleashed weapons of war against criminals? And now, join me in finding out. In the lawless shadows of the Darien Gap, a brutal stretch of jungle straddling Panama and Colombia, there stood a fortress like no other. Not built of stone, but of firepower, fear, and flesh. It was here that two American-born brothers, Lucas and Jared Stone, once elite Special Forces operators, reshaped themselves into warlords. They did not inherit an empire. They engineered it, carving a dominion from the rainforest with discipline, ruthlessness, and blood. Their private army swelled beyond 3,000 fighters, drilled with field manuals stolen from the U.S. military. Recruits were trained like Marines, deployed like Rangers, and armed like frontline soldiers. Heavy machine guns lined their perimeters, shoulder-fired missiles lurked under camouflage netting, and armored transports rolled through mud paths that doubled as killing zones. Stolen anti-aircraft systems peeked through canopy breaks, ready to slice helicopters from the sky. But their arsenal was not just steel and rockets, it was flesh. More than 5,000 civilians from across Central and South America vanished into their network, swallowed whole. At least 126 were confirmed U.S. citizens. Some were condemned to forced labor, others bound for organ harvesting, and the most harrowing, children trafficked into the Golden Triangle's nightmare markets. Their stronghold spanned 37 square miles of uncharted jungle, a labyrinth of bunkers and cages the locals whispered about only as Elsencio, the silence. No one who entered came out. Its perimeter bristled with armed rotorcraft circling the skies, while rivers carried fishing boats gutted and rebuilt into gun platforms, patrolling smuggling routes that stretched to the Caribbean. For 4 years, America tried to breach it. Delta Force raids collapsed in ambushes. SEAL teams vanished in sinkholes and sniper fire. CIA assets were burned alive in staged villages disguised as schools and clinics. The Stones didn't just build a fortress, they wove human shields into its very walls, gambling that no democratic nation would strike through civilians. That gamble ended the moment President Trump received confirmation. 2 American children, ages 9 and 13, had been discovered in a holding cell, prepared for surgical dissection. A line had been crossed. Elsencio was no longer a cartel enclave. It was a battlefield. Why could the Stones operate so openly, defying nations and law alike? The answer was brutal: fear, terrain, and human shields. For years, America hesitated. But once children became cargo for dissection, hesitation died. The United States no longer saw Elsencio as a cartel outpost. It was a battlefield. Why can they operate so openly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now let me find the answer. Before the storm of steel and fire, there was frustration. Between 2021 and 2024, the United States tried and failed again and again to breach Elsencio. At least 6 covert operations were launched by Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, and CIA Special Activities Division operatives. Each one ended the same way: retreat, casualties, silence. In 2022, Operation Black Torch unfolded in darkness. 19 American Special Forces were killed when their Black Hawk helicopters were torn from the sky by Strela II shoulder-launched surface-to-air missiles smuggled from Eastern Europe. The jungle swallowed the wreckage, and the survivors never stood a chance. 1 year later, in 2023, a 12-man reconnaissance team vanished without a trace, just 18 miles from the compound. Their bodies were never recovered. For families at home, there were no funerals, Only uncertainty. The Darien Gap itself became an enemy. 14-foot sinkholes consume vehicles. Canopy density blocks satellite feeds. Suffocating humidity fogged drone optics. Even with thermal imaging and live satellite relays, patrols moved like blind men through a maze of mud, mist, and ambush. The Stones knew the terrain better than any outsider. Every ravine was a kill zone, every trail a trap. But geography was only half the defense. Civilian camouflage completed the shield. Within Elsencio, the brothers built entire mock villages, schools with blackboards hiding ammo caches, clinics covering bunkers, even staged weddings designed to mask armories. American soldiers hesitated, uncertain where civilians ended and combatants began. That hesitation was lethal. The most haunting moment came in late 2023. A compound was discovered aflame, charred to ash. Inside, 82 burned corpses, 17 of them children, were found chained together. The cartel had torched its own captives during the raid, a scorched earth tactic to erase evidence and punish escape attempts. Washington was cornered. The Pentagon admitted the unthinkable. Elsencio was the most fortified non-state stronghold in the Western Hemisphere. Conventional raids were doomed. If America was going to destroy this empire of horror, it would require a new kind of war, fought not just with boots, but with algorithms, satellites, and precision. Please support us by liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps us bring you stories hidden in the world's darkest corners. And before we enter the storm of war between America's finest and the Stone Cartel, let me ask, if given the chance to join this mission, would you, July 10th, 2025? The United States had run out of patience. After years of blood, disappearances, and atrocities smuggled out of the Darien jungle, Washington authorized a mission unlike any ever attempted in the Western Hemisphere. Its name, Operation Iron Justice. This was not a raid. It was a declaration of war. On the ground, America unleashed an army of specialists, 2,100 elite troops drawn from Army Rangers, Marine Raiders, and Delta Force units. They rolled forward with an armored fist, 30 M1A2 Abrams tanks, 45 Stryker armored fighting vehicles, and 12 M109 A7 Paladin self-propelled howitzers. Yet the real revolution was not in steel. It was in the sky, in the silent swarm of machines and algorithms. At the heart of the assault was the MQ-20 Avenger drone, the most advanced hunter-killer unmanned platform America had ever fielded. Each drone carried facial recognition AI, multispectral infrared scanners, and real-time discrimination algorithms capable of separating armed rebels from civilians with 98.7% accuracy, even under jungle canopy. Every flight was tied to the Sentinel constellation, a satellite web scanning 30 square miles every 11 seconds, mapping heat signatures, weapons caches, and even heartbeat patterns. With this data, planners could render a live 3D replica of Elsencio down to the placement of a single bed frame. Beyond drones, America's Navy tightened the noose. 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers patrolled the Caribbean, launching Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles with armor-piercing warheads. But these were no ordinary Tomahawks. Each carried embedded AI rerouting systems, able to bend mid-flight if a civilian entered the blast radius. No strike would land blind. The battlefield itself was divided into 32 combat grids, each monitored in real time by satellites and drones, then overlaid on augmented reality command screens. Every known hostage had biometric data tracked live, ensuring civilian movement was visible at all times. Even the Abrams tanks carried precision GPS fire control modules calibrated to avoid striking shelters or non-combatant zones. One Pentagon general summarized it best: "This is not a hammer blow, it's a scalpel, guided by satellites, drones, and discipline." Every footstep, every blast radius, every refugee movement had been modeled in advance. For the first time, military-grade total war fused with Silicon Valley precision. America wasn't just coming back. It was coming back with math, with steel, and with a promise: it would not miss. At precisely 0300 hours, July 10th, 2025, the night sky over the Darien Gap fractured with fire. Out of the silence came 12 MQ-20 Avenger drones, gliding like predators across the canopy. Within 20 seconds, their payloads slammed into 4 cartel command nodes, cutting communications in a blaze of shock and thunder. 6 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles followed, streaking in from the Caribbean. Their impacts gutted radar posts, weapons depots, and reinforced towers that once seemed indestructible. The Stones Empire awoke in chaos. From the south, 3 battalions of Army Rangers advanced, covered by drone-laid smokescreens and electronic jamming. Moving silent on encrypted comms, they breached the jungle defenses, Abrams tanks grinding forward. 30 of those steel beasts fired 120mm heat rounds, tearing through barricades of logs, sandbags, and concrete bunkers as if they were paper. From the north, Marine Raiders descended fast rope from 8 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters, their landing zones just yards from the prison cages. In less than 12 minutes, they stormed the holding zones, breaking locks, blowing doors, and freeing 2,019 civilians, 41 of them American citizens. Survivors staggered out into the night, moments away from being sold into organ markets or trafficking routes bound for Southeast Asia. The cartel did not surrender. RPGs screamed through the air. 50 caliber machine guns raked the central plaza, and landmines detonated underfoot. For a moment, it looked like the jungle itself fought back. But America had come prepared. Javelin missile teams burned enemy armor block by block. Paladin howitzers on the perimeter delivered pinpoint artillery fire, erasing concentrations of resistance without touching civilian shelters. The rhythm of the battle was ruthless. Strike, suppress, advance. By 0600 hours, the fortress of Elsencio had fallen. The tally was staggering. 3,037 cartel fighters killed, including Lucas and Jared Stone themselves, recovered dead in a collapsed command bunker. Another 728 fighters were captured alive, now bound for trial on charges of crimes against humanity. Not a single American casualty, not one civilian lost. From the deck of the USS Roosevelt, a single encrypted message pulsed back to the Pentagon. Objective cleared, all hostages secured, resistance neutralized. And in doing so, America did more than free the victims. It rewrote the rules of modern warfare. As the smoke cleared over the wreckage of Elsencio, the numbers told a story of total collapse. More than 3,000 cartel soldiers lay dead, 728 were captured, and 2,000 innocents walked free from cages and chains. Deep beneath a collapsed bunker, forensic teams uncovered the disfigured remains of Lucas and Jared Stone. DNA and dental records confirmed what the world had hoped. The warlords of Elsencio were gone. The news spread like wildfire. Images of children clinging to American soldiers, of cages ripped open, of weapons seized from jungle bunkers, flooded every network from Washington to Warsaw. The untouchable fortress had fallen, and the myth of its invincibility was buried in ash. For the first time, victims of trafficking were no longer nameless shadows. They had faces, stories, and futures. The Pentagon released a thunderous statement. There will be no sanctuary for monsters, no borders for justice, no mercy for those who trade in human life. Those words echoed far beyond Central America. Across Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia, cartels and warlords panicked. Intelligence intercepts captured chatter of command posts going dark, assets being burned, traffickers fleeing deeper into mountains and deserts. The ripple was global, but beyond fear, there was proof. Proof that overwhelming force and surgical precision could coexist. Not a single American soldier lost, not a single civilian killed. Operation Iron Justice demonstrated a new doctrine. War could be ruthless and restrained at the same time, guided by satellites, drones, and unyielding discipline. For every syndicate, every trafficker, every self-styled warlord, the warning was unmistakable. You can build walls, you can hide in jungles, you can shield yourself with families and schools. It will not matter. If you cross the line, America will come, and when it does, there will be no warning, no escape, no survivors. The destruction of Elsencio was more than the end of a trafficking empire. It was a declaration. For decades, cartels and warlords thrived under one assumption: that borders were sacred, bureaucracies slow, and jungles impenetrable. They believed corruption could shield them, that human shields could paralyze nations, that horror could hide in the dark. That belief is now dead. From this day forward, the United States no longer treats transnational cartels as criminals. It treats them as enemy combatants. This is the birth of a new doctrine, one where law enforcement yields to drone swarms, satellite constellations, and armored divisions. Justice is no longer bound to subpoenas or borders. It travels at Mach speeds, guided by precision, enforced with steel. But the victory at Elsencio was not vengeance, it was redemption. Redemption for the thousands who vanished without a voice, for the children lost in cages, bound for markets of flesh, for the families who never stopped hoping. Their liberation is proof that technology, discipline, and resolve can align to break even the darkest strongholds. And yet, questions remain. Will America repeat this strategy in Somalia, Myanmar, or Eastern Europe? Will hybrid warfare extend beyond jungles into cyberspace? Or was Elsencio a one-time message to monsters who believe themselves untouchable? The answers will shape tomorrow's wars. What is certain is this: if you traffic human lives, America will find you. And when it does, there will